So, welcome to the second session of our workshop. The second session will be discussion on signaling and transmission media. And first we will discuss about transmission media, and then we will discuss about different type of signaling. What are the techniques are involved, and what are the signaling process are there, and how it can be acknowledged, how the signals are acknowledged, what are the facilities are available with respect to the signaling technique, that also we will discuss. But first we will go through the transmission media. Now as you can see the figure, as some nut bolts, some connectors are available. These are the main parts of a particular system, because one device needs to be connected with respect to other device, so we need some connectors, and with the help of that connectors whole system can be formed, and easy transformation of information can be done from sender end to the receiver end. Now basically we know that there are two types of communications are available. One is wired communication and one is wireless communication. Wired communication means there is a fixed line between transmitter end to the receiver end, whereas in wireless there is no fixed line between the transmitter and the receiver end, but there is some techniques are there, some process are there through which signals travels from transmitter end to the receiver end safely without any sort of disturbance. If the disturbance is there, systems are available who will minimize the effect of noise which is available in the channels, and then it can be recovered with the original signal at the receiver end. Okay, so this transmission media, we will see how many type of transmission medias are there, what are the characteristics are there, how many type of channels are available, and all. Next. So in this we are going to discuss about guided wire, unguided wireless, characteristics and quality determined by the medium and the signals. For guided, the medium is more important. For unguided, the bandwidth produced by the antenna is more important, and the key concern are the data rate and distance. One more important features of this channel or transmission media, there are two types of media available. As I told, one is guided media, one is unguided media. Guided media means there is a fixed channel between one end to the other end. One end means transmitter end to the receiver end, and unguided means it is a wireless. The free space propagation takes place. Okay. Now, if it is medium, that means it must have some sort of characteristics. If the characteristics are known, then we can identify the signal quality, signal strength, in which particular band it is operating, what is the channel capacity, everything we can identify. For fourth one, for the guided, the medium is more important. Yes, for the guided media, the medium is more important. The medium can be lossless medium, can be lossy medium, can be air medium, or if it is a air medium means it is a free space. If it is a lossy medium means it must have some sort of dielectric values through which your EM wave or the potential or current will flow from that particular point from a transmitter end to the receiver end. Similarly, if you are using the optical cable, in that only the light energy is going to be traveled from one end to the other end. Okay. Fifth one is for unguided, the bandwidth produced by the antenna is more important. Yes, if it is unguided, let us consider a cellular phone. A cellular phone, how it transmits the signal? With the help of small elemental part is available, or element is available, that is called antenna, and those antenna are energized with less potential, and if it is with respect to less potential means the frequency component is going to be very, very high. So in this unguided media, the antenna, or you can say it is called as a small transducer, which helps to convert one form of energy into the another form of energy. And with the help of that energy, we are going to transmit the signal from transmitter end to the receiver end, though in a same region or though it may be a different region. Okay. And the last one, key concern are the data rate and the distance. This is the most important factor of the communication. First, with respect to distance, and second with respect to data rate. When the word comes data rate means it is called as a frequency component. Rate itself indicates it is a frequency component. If the data rate is high, that means it is operating at a higher frequency component. Okay, and the distance means if the distance is large, that means the frequency component need to be high and the wavelength of a particular signal must be less. So we correlate the wavelength with respect to potential. So if the potential is less, wavelength will be less. If the wavelength is less, frequency component will be high. Because wavelength and potential, wavelength and your frequency are inversely proportional to each other. If any of the factor is high, the other factor is definitely going to be less. So whenever this communication takes place in wireless, it is called microwave communication. Okay, microwave, it will be in a gigahertz. In the gigahertz, that means automatically the wavelength will become in terms of micrometer or in terms of Armstrong, 10 to the power minus 10, 10 to the power minus 6, 10 to the power minus 12, like that. In that particular range it will go, because frequency component is very, very high. Next. Okay. So before entering to the transmission media, there are certain factors we need to consider. That is called design factor. So there are these are the fundamental points. First is bandwidth, second is transmission impairment, third is interference, and number of receivers. So these are the four factors which plays a vital role for a particular transmission media. So first, so bandwidth, the higher the bandwidth, higher is the data rate. So it's directly proportional, or you can say channel capacity. If the channel capacity is high, the bandwidth of a particular channel is high, and you can transmit the large number of data with a higher data rate. Okay. Second, transmission impairment. Transmission impairment means whenever we are transmitting the information, the certain amount of information is losses when it is propagating from one point to the other point, and that losses we are saying it is called attenuation. Okay, or you can say it is called blockage. It is due to the characteristics of a medium. Okay, then it is called interference. Interference, different type of interference are there. Co-channel interference is there. Interference with respect to external noise is there, which will hamper to our information. So that is called interference. Number of receivers means how many type of receivers are there. Whether it is a one-to-one communication, one-to-many communication, many-to-one communication, many-to-many communication. So depend upon the receiver characteristics also. These are the design factors for a particular transmission line. And in this, number of receivers in guided media, more receivers, it is called as a multi-point, introduce more attenuation. So multi-point means many-to-many communication. One-to-many communication, many-to-one communication. If it is one-to-one, then it is okay, but it is one-to-many, then interference may come, because channel requirement or channel utilization by the users will be more, and sometimes the crosstalk may happen in that particular case, and that crosstalk is one factor of the producing the interference of a particular signal. The same signal what I am going to transmit may not deliver at a receiver end. Okay, so these are the fundamental design factor of a transmission medium. Now, this slide is already been discussed in the previous session. Again, I am discussing, just giving a brief of electromagnetic spectrum. So whenever we are using our transmission system, the communication takes place with respect to certain bandwidth. The governing body provides a certain spectrum through which the information can be delivered from one end to the other end. For example, up to 2.4 gigahertz or up to 2.5 gigahertz limitation is there, because within that limitation the communication takes place in India. Okay, if you go above that 3 gigahertz, it will be violating the regulatory authority or the spectrum providers. So the certain spectrums are there, as you can see: ELF, VF, VLF, LF, MF, HF, VHF, UHF, SHF, EHF. These all are depend upon different sort of spectrums. Okay, so here you can see that different type of medias are there which can operate in this sort of spectrum. You can see this is called the twisted pair cable, which is limitation is 10 to the power 2 to 10 to the power 8 Hz. This is the twisted pair cable. Similarly, coaxial cable can operate from 10 to the power 3 to 10 to the power 9. It is a 10 to the power 3 means it is kilohertz to 10 to the power 9 gigahertz. Okay. Similarly, the radio is available for wireless communication. Similarly, FM radio is also at a wireless communication. Similarly, terrestrial and satellite transmission. So when this particular band, if you see, if you go into the higher frequency bandwidth, that means the data rate is high. If the data rate is high, that means the distance coverage will be, the distance will be more. Frequency component will be high. Your wavelength will be less. So that in a fraction of second, the large number of data can be transmitted. If the frequency component is high, 10 to the power 9, if I will ask what is the time period required, that means in nanosecond, 1 by 10 to the power 9 means in nanosecond we can transmit the signal from one end to the other end in a fraction of second. Okay. So this is the basic spectrum through which the communication takes place. Beyond 10 to the power 12, it is infrared, laser, guided missiles and range finders, then optical cables are available. So these are the different scenario with respect to the transmission medium. Okay. Next. So classification of transmission media. Basically, there are two medias are there as I have discussed. One is guided, one is unguided. Guided is called as a wire communication. In this wire, we have twisted pair cable, coaxial cable, and optical cable, fiber optical cable. Okay. Similarly, in unguided, it is a free space propagation. Do not have any sort of fixed line between transmitter and the receiver end. Okay. Next. So first we will discuss about the guided transmission, then we will go for unguided transmission. So guided transmission means which are those that provide a conduit from one device to another, include twisted pair cable, coaxial cable and fiber optic cable. So it is a fixed line. Conduit means it connect one end of a transmitter end to the receiver end. Fixed line will be there. For example, telephone networks. For example, optical cables through which we are using the LAN connection nowadays. The service providers are there. Those who are using the optical cable for the providing the LAN connection at our home as well as in our offices. So this particular guided media comes in that particular era. So guided media will have the fixed path, fixed channel will be there, fixed data rate can be available. Okay, signal strength will be high with respect to this sort of cables. Next. So here I have jotted down some frequency range, typical attenuation, typical delay and the repeaters, because as it is a long distance communication or if it is from one point to the other point we require repeaters. The repeaters means these are the devices which will reconstruct the original signal, boost the received signal, suppress the emission of noise and generate the new signal which is same what we are transmitting. Okay. So first you can see that twisted pair cable whose frequency range is 0 to 3.5 kHz. Typical attenuation is 0.24 dB per kilometer and typical delay is 50 microsecond per kilometer and the repeaters are available at a distance of 2 km. These repeaters are fixed. Okay. Similarly, twisted pair cable, if it is a multi-pair cable, multi-pair means more than one number of cables are there. Then the frequency range will be 0 to 1 MHz. Then typical attenuation will be 0.7 dB per kilometer and typical delay will be 5 microsecond per kilometer and repeaters will be available at 2 km. So here in this table you can see there are different cables are there and different cables operate at a different frequency band. Different frequency band, different repeaters are there and more efficient way of transmission. If the delay is less, that means the signal travel from one point to the other point is faster. So delay period you can see here for coaxial cable the delay, typical delay is 4 microsecond per kilometer and the repeaters are available 1 to 9 kilometers. So less number of repeaters are required if you are using the coaxial cable. Similarly, nowadays in optical cable we are using whose frequency range is 186 to 370 terahertz. Terahertz means it depends upon speed of light. Because in optical cable the light is going to travel and the light travels at a speed of 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Okay. So if it is traveling at this particular velocity, your frequency component definitely going to be in terms of terahertz. So if it is in terahertz, that means accessible data rate is very high. So if I will compare with respect to twisted pair cable, coaxial cable and with optical cable, the maximum data rate we can achieve with the help of this optical cable. And here the repeaters requirement is less. Repeaters are placed at a distance of 40 kilometers. So less amount of repeaters are used in our optical fiber. Okay. Next. So this is the first case. This is the scenario of a twisted pair cable. In this you can see there are two layers are there. First jacket is called as an insulator. Inner one is called as a conductor. And here it is separately insulated, twisted together, often bundled into cable, usually installed in building during the construction. Okay. So this is the basic twisted pair cable. First insulator will be there. Within that insulator our conductors are available. In our household utilization also we are using this twisted pair cable. Next. So this is some application of twisted pair cable. Most common medium commonly used in telephone networks within the particular building, for local area network, for LAN connection, and with respect to 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. So this is the data through which the information can be transferred. So this 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps means it is megabit per second and 100 Mbps. So this is the particular range of data rate through which this twisted pair cable can operate. And twisted pair cable is having certain pros and cons. Pros are cheap, easy to work, and cons are low data rate and it can operate for a short range. It cannot be used for a long range. So this cons means it is the demerit of a twisted pair cable. The twisted pair cable can be used for a short distance communication, not for a long distance communication. If you see that particular cable, what I have discussed earlier, the optical cables are basically used for the long distance communication. The repeaters what we placed between one repeater to another repeater, its distance is 40 kilometers. And the information is traveling at a speed of light. And the bandwidth is in terms of terahertz. So if the bandwidth is in terahertz, accessible data rate is in terms of terahertz. In a fraction of second we can access large amount of data. Next. So this is one more type, that is called unshielded and shielded TP. So it is a TP means it is a twisted pair cable. Unshielded twisted pair cable. Here you can see the figure. The two differences are here one metallic shield is available, but here the metallic shield is not available. So it is unshielded twisted pair means there will be no shield. Okay, but if it is a shielded twisted pair cable, there will be a metallic shield will be available in it. But what it is ordinary telephone wires, cheapest, easiest to install, suffer from external EM interference. Yes, it will suffer the external EM interference because there is no external jacket with it. So EM interference will be more with respect to the metallic shield twisted pair cable. So in shielded twisted pair cable, the metal braid or the shielding that reduce the interference, more expensive, harder to handle. So this is more expensive because here externally we are connecting one metal shield. So this is the basic difference. The difference is interference is high in this case, less interference in this particular case. Next. So these are the categories of a twisted pair cable. So as you can see, first one is unshielded twisted pair cable used in telephones, whose data rate is less than 0.1 Mbps and used for a telephone. Similarly, unshielded twisted pair cable used for transmission lines. So data rate will be 2 Mbps. Similarly, improved category 2 In this twisted pair cable, there are 4 categories are available: category 2, category 3, category 4, category 5. Depend upon this category, the data rates are varied. So if you see the category 5, the data rate is 125 Mbps and basically used in the LAN connection. So these are the certain connectors, UTP connectors. This is female jack and this is the male jack. What we are using in our day-to-day life. If I am using this particular jack, must be available in your laptops. Suppose if I will provide a LAN cable, the LAN cable output will look like this. You need to insert in that jack so that the connectivity will be taken place as a local area network. We can access the data. Okay. Similarly, a new category with a match component coming from the same manufacturer as a cable must be of 200 Mbps data rate. So this category 5, nowadays it is day by day the industry is improvising their how to increase the data rate so that the customers will come to them and utilize the product and how it can be used in their day-to-day life. Okay, so here it is 200 data rate, similar it is a 600 Mbps. So as much as this data rate increases, the product quality enhance, the cost effectiveness will be more. Okay. Next. So next we will discuss about the coaxial cable. Many of us are aware with the structure of coaxial cable. We have a jacket called plastic cover, we have an insulators, we have an outer conductor shielded, and then we have a inner conductor. So this is the basic structure of a coaxial cable. Next. Next. So coaxial cable application, it is more versatile medium. It can be used in your television distribution, like television distributors are there, like Airtel, like Videocon, Dish TV, different sort of local cable channels are available. It can be used for a long distance telecom transmission. It can carry 10,000 voice calls simultaneously, replaced by the fiber optics, short distance computer system link, local area network. So these are the applications of coaxial cables. Next. So the coaxial cables can be used for analog transmission as well as for digital transmission. Analog transmissions are amplified every few kilometers, close if higher frequency up to 500 MHz. That means if it is an analogous mode, maximum to maximum 500 MHz of data can be transmitted with the help of this coaxial cable. But if it is used for a digital, then the repeaters will be available at a distance of 1 km. And it is closer to the higher data rate. Closer to the higher data rate means the maximum, more than 500 MHz, because potential requirement is less in digital. If the potential requirement is less, wavelength is less, but the frequency component is high. So your higher data rate can be achieved. Here you can see that the certain categories are there. Coaxial cable RG59, RG58, RG11 with an impedance. These all are called as a characteristics impedance of a particular medium. So characteristics impedance 75. If you measure this characteristics impedance throughout the line, it will remain constant. It will not change. So each medium should have a certain impedance. So if it is RG59, it will not exceed 75. It will have 75 throughout the distance. Okay. Used in a cable television. Similarly, RG58 is the impedance is a 50 ohm, which is a thin Ethernet, and RG11 can be used for the thick Ethernet. Means used can be in our local area network connection. This is cable TV, and this is the basic setup for our this coaxial cable. Cable is there, BNC connector. This is the BNCT is available, BNC connector. This is the whole setup, and then the output can be observed at the receiver end. Next. So this is the basic features of an optical fiber. What we have discussed with respect to coaxial cable, now we will discuss with respect to optical cable. Now since if it is optical fiber means the optics will come into picture. Optics means how the ray will travel from rarer medium to the denser medium, or denser medium to the rarer medium, and it will go through the total internal reflection. Now since our signal need to be propagated in the same medium, that means the incident angle must be greater than or must satisfy the TIR, that is total internal reflection. Angle of incidence must be greater than angle theta, that is greater than 90 degree, then only the signal will bend and it will propagate in this particular core medium. So it is having core and cladding. So the signal will transmit in the form of light. So as much as the total internal reflection increases, the losses will be there, because as much as this total internal reflection increases, the potential drop at this particular point will be high, and that potential drop will act as an attenuation, will block your input signal and the output signal quality deteriorate. Okay. So there are three layers are available. One is cladding, core and cladding. So cladding is the outer layer, core is the inner layer. It is made up of silica or a glass through which light can penetrate from one end to the receiver end. So this is the basic concept behind our optics. Here what happens, when we move from denser to rarer, it will move away from the normal. So this is away from the normal. If it is moving from denser to rarer, move towards the normal. Here you can see, if I will increase the angle, it will move away from the normal, and if I will again increase the angle, it will penetrate to the same medium. This particular case is called as a critical angle, or it is called as a total internal reflection. So this critical angle you have to identify. So angle of incidence, if it is greater than critical angle, then you can say it is called total internal reflection. If it is less, if it is equal, then it is away from the normal. If it is less, then it is towards the normal. So these are the fundamental components available in our optical cable. Next. So these are the benefits of optical cable, that it is having a greater capacity. Yes, it is a greater capacity. How? Because anyway we are transmitting with respect to light. The light is propagating with the velocity 3 into 10 to the power 8. Velocity is directly proportional to the frequency. If the velocity is high, your frequency component will be in terms of Gbps or in terms of gigahertz. Similarly, it is a smaller in size and wavelength requirement is also less, because frequency component is high and the velocity is also high. Lower attenuation, yes, because light propagates within the particular medium, and in which if it is suffering for more number of TIR, total internal reflection, that means losses will be more. But we need to incline the light in such a manner that total internal reflection will be less. So if the total internal reflection is less, that means attenuation is also less. Electromagnetic isolation, yes, because the light is also called as photon energy, and if the light strikes to the cladding continuously, energy dissipation will be there and the energy losses will be there, and due to that it will attenuate your input signal. So that is called electromagnetic isolation. And the greater repeater spacing. So when I am using the optical cables, the repeater will be placed at a distance of 40 km repeaters. So here 10 seconds of kilometer at least, means it is 40 km, one repeater will be placed so that it will retune the original signal. And the optical fiber applications are, it can be used for metropolitan trunks, rural exchange trunks, subscriber loops and local area networks. So these all are the applications of optical fiber. Next. So in optical fiber there are different modes are available, because since it is a guided media, it will operate at a certain mode. So first you can see there is called as a multi-mode, and then it is called as a single mode. But multi-mode is depend upon step index and graded index. In market, when we go for this sort of cable, they will tell that GI cable is available or SI cable is available. GI cable means it is a graded index cable which operate in a multi-mode. Multi-mode means n number of modes are available through which information can be transmitted. So these are the two types. Similarly, single mode is available. Next, so these are the certain figures for multi-mode step index, for multi-mode graded index, and this is called single mode. In single mode, as you can see, the light is propagating in a straight line, means directly we are transmitting this signal. But if it is in a multi-mode graded index, as much as if you move away from this particular core, the refractive index will change. So this is called as our multi-mode step index. This is called a multi-mode graded index. Step index means there will be a variation of refractive index in a two-part, but in multi-mode graded index, layer by layer your refractive index will change, and that refractive index is only with respect to the core. And so these are the certain types: cladding, how much micrometer should be; core, how much it should be, and for which sort of mode it is operating. Either it is a multi-mode graded index, either it is a single mode graded index. Different type of fibers are available. Next, so optical fiber transmission characteristics. So since it is a media, it will have certain characteristics. So first characteristics is what? It acts as a waveguide. Yes, it is true, it acts as a waveguide. It will guide the light energy. It will guide the light waves from transmitter end to the receiver end at a range of 10 to the power 14 to 10 to the power 15 Hz. That means it is in terahertz. Okay. Portion of infrared and visible spectrum, because it enters to the infrared and visible spectrum, because it is in terahertz. Then who will generate for this particular guided media as a source and as a receiver? Source is act as a LED, or you can say it is called laser, who will produce the light. Okay. So light emitting diodes can be used, which is cheaper, wider operating temperature range, and lasts longer. So this is the source. LED can be used as source, laser can be used as source. Similarly, lasers, it is called injection laser diode, more efficient, better data rate, because laser is traveling of light with respect to laser is more faster with respect to the LED. Okay, and these all devices are non-linear devices, because these all are called as semiconductor devices, and semiconductor devices are non-linear in nature. With less input, maximum output will be available, and the wave division multiplexings are available, because here light wave is going to propagate. So light is having different sort of characteristics, different wavelength it carries. So we can transmit different wavelength of information in a particular channel with the help of WDM, that is called wave division multiplexing. Next, so one more important thing, I have discussed LED, I have discussed this laser as a source, but at a receiver end we are using the photodetectors. Photodetectors are the device which will receive the light energy and convert into the electrical energy. So whatever the information we have transmitted in the form of light will be converted into the original signal in a form of electrical, either in the form of pulse, either in the form of analogous mode, or other in the form of a digital mode. If it is in the form of a pulse, that pulse can be again demodulated to reconstruct the original signals. So these are the fiber optic cables and connectors, as we have seen the connectors for our coaxial cable. Similarly, these are the SC connectors, ST connectors, and these are MTRJ connectors. So these are the connectors which will propagate, or which will help to propagate the light from one point to the another point. Okay. Next we will enter to the unguided media. So this unguided media means it is a free space propagation. So when it is a free space propagation, means it will enter in terms of microwaves. It will enter in terms of electromagnetic wave propagation, because free space indicates that there is no fixed channel from transmitter end to the receiver end. The only mean is to transmit the signal is antenna. It is an element which converts one form of energy into the another form of energy. One form of energy means when the signals is measured in terms of potential and current within the device, but when it comes out from a device, it is in a form of wave, that is electromagnetic wave. The potential is related to the electric field and current is related with respect to the magnetic field. So with the help of this EM wave, we can transmit our signal from one end to the other end. Now when we are transmitting this EM wave, the potential requirement is very less. For example, our cellular phone are basically operating 4 ampere. It is very less amount of current is required. Potential is also very less. If the potential is less, wavelength is also less. If wavelength is less, frequency component is very high. And the frequency component, if it is very high, means it will enter to the radio waves, it will enter to the microwaves, or it will enter to the infrared region. As you can see here, I have mentioned the radio waves and microwaves, it ranges from 3 kHz to 300 GHz. So if the bandwidth is from 3 kHz to 300 GHz, that means the data rate is more. If the data rate is more, the bandwidth is more, channel capacity is more. Okay. Similarly, you can see 300 GHz to 4000 THz is called as infrared. In this particular range, we can't operate for your electromagnetic wave for as a communication purpose. Okay. And 4000 THz to 9000 THz, it is called light wave. Done. So unguided media transport the electromagnetic wave without using a physical conductor. This type of communication offers called as a wireless communication. So for wireless communication, from 3 kHz to 300 GHz we can operate. Okay. Next. Now, when it is wireless communication, the different scenario will come, different type of waves will come. Okay. So that is called propagation method. How many type of propagation methods are there? First, it is a ground propagation. Ground propagation, which is below 2 MHz. Ground propagation, I will show how it is. It is within this ionosphere, the communication takes place. The transmitting end will be there. It will distribute throughout the globe, and the spectrums are utilized by the different users for their communication purpose. Similarly, sky propagation. Sky propagation means, if I will say satellite communication, our satellite will be placed in this particular range so that one base station can transmit to the satellite, and from satellite again from one base station. Means it is for a long distance communication. This sky propagation is used, and it is from 2 to 30 MHz. Similarly, line of sight propagation. Line of sight propagation means straight propagation, face to face propagation. Okay, and its range is about 30 MHz, because 30 MHz means it is a straight line, and we are considering that light waves are propagating in a straight manner with the same speed of light, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, which is directly proportional to the frequency. If the velocity is propagating at the speed of light, then frequency definitely will be high. So as you can see, there are 3 different propagation, and your line of sight propagation is having the maximum frequency. So when the 2 base stations are in line of sight, maximum information can be exchanged rather than the sky propagation and ground propagation. So these are the different type of propagation mode. Next. Now this is the same pictorial representation of above. Here you can see, this is the propagating signal, receiving antenna and transmitting antenna will be there. This is called ground wave propagation below 2 MHz. This is called sky wave propagation, in which reflection will be taken place. If the ground reflection takes place, the information losses will be more. So here it is 2 to 30 MHz. Similarly, if it is line of sight propagation, the frequency component will be very high, because the signal travel at the speed of light, and the speed is directly proportional to the frequency. Okay. Next. So these are the certain bands through which different sort of propagation can be done. One is ground wave propagation. So it is a VLF, very low frequency. Low frequency range is 3 to 30 kHz, 30 to 300 kHz. Propagation is a ground wave. Application, it is a long range radio navigation purpose. Radio becomes radio beacons and navigation locators. So these are used for your navigation purpose. Okay. Similarly, the middle frequency and high frequency and very high frequency are basically comes under your sky wave propagation, which is used in AM broadcast, citizen band, VHF for TV broadcasting as well as for FM broadcasting. Similarly, UHF, SHF and EHF. UHF means ultra high frequency, SHF means super high frequency and EHF means extremely high frequency. These are the certain bands which are used for the line of sight propagation. So line of sight propagation basically used for cellular phones, paging, satellite communications are there, radars and satellites. So these all comes under your line of sight propagation. Okay. Next. So basic element for your wireless communication is antenna. Antenna is a device, or you can say it is called transducer, which convert one form of energy into the another form of energy. We energize the antenna with providing potential and current, but whatever the output comes out from that device, it is in form of EM waves, electromagnetic waves. We have a certain relation called Maxwell equation that relates the potential with respect to electric field, current with respect to magnetic field. Okay. So electrical conductor used to radiate electromagnetic energy as well as it can collect the electromagnetic energy, because the same antenna can be used for transmitting purpose also as well as for receiving purpose also. Transmission, radio frequency energy from transmitter convert to the electromagnetic energy by the antenna, radiate into surrounding environment. Yes, while transmission. While reception, electromagnetic energy impairing to an antenna. It is injected to an antenna. It will receive the electromagnetic energy, convert into the electrical pulses. Convert to the radio frequency electrical energy, what I have told. It will convert the EM energy into the electrical energy and feed to the receiver, and the same antenna often can be used for both, for transmitting purpose as well as receiving purpose. Next. So these are the various type of antennas. This is called parabolic reflector antenna. Basically in our D2H services or in our cable TV services, they are using this reflector antenna which will receive all this information. As you can see, the signals will come from, or when it is transmitting, the antenna when it is transmitting, it is called as a focal point of an antenna. From this focal point, when it is energized, the energy dissipated in this particular reflector and spread throughout the region. Okay, spread throughout the region. Same thing when it is receiving, again the same signals are coming to this and convert into this focal point. The focal point will energize and convert into the electrical energy. Okay, so here used for terrestrial and satellite microwave. Parabola is a locus point, equidistance for a line and a point, not on that line it is a fixed point. Line is directrix, because if it is parabola in nature, it must satisfy the condition of a parabola, that is called directrix. Removal parabola about axis to get the paraboloid. Cross section parallel to the axis given the parabola. These are the characteristics of the parabola. Source placed focus will produce wave reflected from the parabola in parallel to the axis. So it is in parallel to the axis. So when it is energizing, it is parallel to the axis. So here you can see this is the axis and it is energizing. Okay. Then on reception signal it will concentrated at the focus where the director is placed. So when it is receiving the signals, let us consider from this side it is receiving, or you can see this side it is receiving. Your focal point must be placed, it is called as a director. So here at this, all the signals will be entering at this focal point, electromagnetic energy received at this point, potential drop will be there and you can extract the information. Okay. Next. So this is the basic working principle of unidirectional antenna. So here you can see it is a reflector. All the signals we are receiving and it is terminated at the focal point. At this the director element will be present, who will receive all those EM wave convert into the electrical signal. Similarly, when I am using this one as a transmitter, this end will act as an energizer. It will distribute the signals and it will travel in this particular direction. Same thing for a waveguide also. It is a horn antenna. So here we are feeding the power and it will distribute throughout the region. Next. So these are the fundamental points what I have discussed. The radio waves used for the multicast communication, or you can say it is called multimedia communication for television, for paging system. They can penetrate through the walls. Yes, they can penetrate through the walls. Highly regulated and use omnidirectional antenna. Omnidirectional antenna means throughout this place, isotropic in nature. Okay. And microwaves are used for unicast communication such as cellular telephone, satellite networks, wireless LAN. High frequency range cannot penetrate to the wall. Radio waves can penetrate to the wall, but these microwaves will not penetrate to the wall because the wavelength is very less. Penetration will be very less. Infrared signal can be used for the short range communication in a closed area using the line of sight propagation. So there are the three different waves are there: radio waves, microwave and infrared. So depend upon the characteristics of those waves, it will it will correlate, or as per the mediums, the radio waves can be utilized, microwave can be utilized, and for infrared can also be utilized. Infrared is used for short distance communication, or we can say it is called line of sight propagation. Okay. Next. So this is called satellite microwave. Satellite is a relay system. Satellite receive one frequency, amplify and repeat to the repeat signal and transmit to the another frequency. Requires geostationary orbit. Height is 35,784 km. Used for television, long distance telephony, and private business network. So these are the characteristics of satellite microwave. So when the satellite is working, it will work on this particular cases. First, satellite is a relay system. Yes, relay means it is a switching system. Suppose I am transmitting some signal and the user is sitting in USA. Directly I can't transmit. First, it should go to the base station to the main switching center, from the main switching center to the other ISD network, and the ISD network is what? It will transmit with the help of a satellite. So transmitter will transmit the signal from base station and it will receive to the satellite, and the satellite will transmit again the same signal to the base station with the same signal. So it acts as a relay system. Similarly, satellite receives one frequency, amplifies, repeat the signal and transmit the original frequency. It is in geostationary orbit, that means from Earth's surface, the satellites are placed at a distance of 35,784 km, basically used in televisions, long distance telephony and private business network. Okay. Next. So this is the basic thing what I have discussed now. This is our Earth station. I am here, but the user is in USA, so I cannot directly transmit the signal. What I will do? My base station, my information will go to this base station. Base station will transmit the signal to the satellite. The satellite is also called as a transponder. Transponder means it receives the signal, amplify it, reduce the amount of noise, again it delivered to the particular receiver. So the satellite is nothing but a relay, it is nothing but a switch. It will get the information, reconstruct it, again it delivered to the received base station. So this is the satellite broadcast link. In satellite broadcast link means, suppose we are using the television broadcast. So television broadcast system is placed in certain area. We are the users. Different users are located in a different regions. One satellite will project all the information, and whatever the dish TV or whatever the cable operator we have, we are the users. Multiple receivers are there. He will distribute the same information from the transmitter end, and we are the users who are accessing those data with the help of this satellite. This satellite is also called as transponder. Transponder means it will act as receiver as well as transmitter. In that, reconstruction of original signal is also taken place. Next. Now, this is the most important factor in our communication process. How we lose our information. The information are lost if it is not done in line of sight propagation. If there are different sort of sufferance are there, sufferance of a signal from one end to the other end, means transmitter end to the receiver end. If there are different sort of obstructions are there, due to which the fading effect will come place. Means, suppose if I am speaking in this particular room my voice is audible in this room, but my voice is not same as it is moving outside of the room. The signal quality will deteriorate because the reflection takes place, and that reflection is called as a multi-fading. So here it is a multi-path interference. So multi-path interference means, as you can see, there is a line of sight propagation, one is reflection is done, okay, and one it is not following the line of sight propagation, or you can say it is called sky wave propagation. So if it is not providing through line of sight propagation, some interference will be generated. Interference means, suppose if I am transmitting the same information, first it will receive to the receiver end at the same time, at the estimated time, but after reflection same information is receiving at the delay of same time. Now they will correlate with each other. They will identify some difference. Signal quality may deteriorate, and that is due to the multi-path interference or multi-path fading, I can say. Similarly, when I am transmitting, when I am traveling from this particular mobile, you can say, and I am communicating to this, so there are a lot of disturbance will be there. My information can be deteriorated by the building placed near me. Some trees are available. If it is thundering is there, natural calamity is there, due to which signal quality may deteriorate. That is called interference. So are subject to a lot more error than the guided media. In guided media, these sort of things are very less. But if it is free space, this interference will be definitely will be there. Then interference is one cause for the error can be circumvented with high SNR. So this interference can be reduced by increasing the signal quality. So if you are increasing the signal quality at the receiver, your SNR value is definitely going to be high. SNR is only the tool through which we can judge our received signal quality is very good or not. If the signal quality is very high with respect to noise, then your SNR is greater than 1. If your signal quality is less with respect to noise, then your SNR value is very less than 1. And we can say we cannot reconstruct the original signal. Then the highest SNR, the less capacity is available for the transmission due to the broadcast nature of the channel. And channel also subject to the fading and no convergence. So this is the gist of a particular interference or a particular multipath fading. Multipath means different path it will take to reach the receiver end, and it will suffer. If it suffers the number of obstruction, the signal quality is definitely going to be less. Our signal to noise ratio is less. We need to strengthen the signal power, but we cannot remove the effect of noise, but we can minimize the effect of noise with the help of some sort of networks at the receiver. If the signal quality increases, you can reconstruct your original signal. So it is we need to identify that signal to noise ratio must be very greater than 1, so that signal quality is high, noise is less. Okay. So for this session, this transmission media, up to this much I will discuss. Next we will discuss about the signal. How this transmission media will help to deliver the information. And the signaling is a technique through which information can be propagating from one point to the other. What are the different techniques are there? What are the band limitation is there? If it is out of the band, what will happen? If it is in band, what will happen? If it is acknowledgement is required, because if I am sending a signal, if receiver is not acknowledging it, that means my whole communication got waste. So there must be some receiver who will respond to my information. If he responds, if he acknowledges, then only the whole communication will be done. If one point is failed to respond, that means whole communication fails. Okay. So we will discuss signaling now after this particular session. Thank you. Welcome back. This is the second part of my discussion, that is called signaling. Already we have discussed about the different types of transmission media. That is, one is unguided, one is guided media. Now we will discuss about the signal. Now the word itself indicates that signals. Signals means information. Information means energy. Need to be transferred from one point to the other point if it is depend upon the nature of communication. If it is half duplex, that means only one-way communication. One will speak, other will listen. Okay. Similarly, there is a full duplex. Full duplex means both can speak at the same time. So different type of communications are available. But the thing is that we need to transmit this signal. What are the techniques through which these signals can be transferred from the particular medium or particular channel? Depend upon its bandwidth, depend upon its data rate, depend upon the characteristics of a particular medium. Okay? So here we will discuss about the signaling techniques. Next. So I am going to discuss in this session signaling channels and techniques, signaling issue and signaling model. So these are the three basic components of a signaling. Signaling channels means different sort of channels are available through which signals can be traveled from one source point to the destination point. Similarly, and what are the techniques? Different sort of techniques are. If I will say how many type of modulations, different sort of modulations are there. Depend upon analogous, depends upon digital. If it is analog, we have continuous wave modulation, we have pulse modulation. Similarly, if it is a digital, we have amplitude shift key, we have BPSK, we have DPSK, we have FSK, different sort of modulation schemes are there. So different sort of techniques are there. Similarly, signaling techniques are also available. Signaling issue. Signaling issue means what are the issue we create when I am transmitting the signal. In the last session I have discussed that if I am transmitting a signal, the receiver must respond. If he is not responding, that means the whole communication system won't work. It is only that I am speaking and rest people are remain silent. They are not responding to it. So that whole communication fails. So communication means I need to communicate to the users. Users can communicate to me with the help of some acknowledgement, with the help of some feedback, with the help of some loop. If the loop is not done, or if the complete loop is not done, that means communication doesn't happen. Okay, so that are the different issues are there that we will see, and at last we will see how many types of signaling models are there. Now, the signaling models are nothing but how many types of communications are there. Point-to-point communication, point to multi-point communication, multi-point to point communication. How many types of architectures are there? You people have undergone the ring architecture, mesh architecture, star topology, different sort of topologies are there through which the systems can communicate with other systems. Okay. Next. So first we will discuss what is signaling. So signaling is used between user and the network. Yes, it is between user and the network, or between network and the element to exchange various control information like traffic descriptor, service descriptor, channel identifiers. So these are the three basic components of a signal. Because when the signal travels, as you can see, if you are traveling from one source point to the destination point, in between that n number of traffics will come, n number of junctions will come, in which you will face n number of traffic. Lot of people will come into same point. You have to wait for a signal. If the signals are green, you have to move it. If the signals is orange, you have to keep it ready. If the signal is red, means you have to stop it. Same signaling is done with respect to the communication. Okay. So here first is traffic descriptor. Second is service descriptor. Means who provide the services. Who is your service provider? According to the service provider, you are asking for the network. Suppose if I am using the Jio, if I am using Airtel, that means my service provider is the Airtel. He will provide a network for me for my particular communication, either within the same network or with the other network. Suppose if I am speaking with respect to Airtel, that means it is the same network. If I am speaking with respect to the Jio person or with respect to the Vodafone person, that means it is network to network, it differs. Okay. Similarly, channel identifiers. So channel identifiers means how many channels are available in that particular network. Which channel is allocated to me? Which channel is allocated to the service users, end users? Which channel is used by me in a particular region? In mobile communication, you can see that is called as a cellular concept. Cells are available. Same frequency can be reused, but after a certain distance. Same cell means it is called as a channel. Channel means it is called as a bandwidth. The bandwidth can be utilized in a particular region, and I can use the same frequency band at a distance, at a certain distance, in a different region. So the channel reuse will come into picture. So that is called as our channel identifiers. He will identify the channels through which communication can be done. Signal can be transmitted from source end to the destination end. Okay. Next, in other words, the signaling is used to dynamically establish, monitor, and release the connections, including physical, virtual, or logical connections. So these are the three different environments. One is including physical, virtual, and logical. So these are the three different techniques or three different eras through which the signaling need to be done, either physically, either virtually, or either logically. And the signaling is basically a dynamic in nature. It can dynamic, it will change from point to point, time to time, distance to distance. Signal quality may deteriorate, distance to distance. Signal traffic, due to the traffic, due to the congestion of the network, signal may deteriorate. We cannot receive the signal in the same time period. The service provider will see that which channel is free. That channel is provided to you and you can use it. Okay, and these all things are so fast and it is so dynamic that allocating a particular channel to you is in a fraction of a second by a service provider. So these all are the features of a signal. Next. So these are types. There are various types of signaling are there. One is in band, one is out of band. Now the word itself is called as a in band and out of band, and that depends upon the network. Okay. Basically, there are two types of networks. One is telecom network, one is data network. Okay. Telecom network means we can communicate with voice. Okay. With telecommunication systems are there, cellular systems are there, through which communication can be done in digital platform as well as in analogous platform. Similarly, datacom networks are there, and depend upon this type of networks, this inbound and outbound signaling are identified. Inbound means within a particular channel. If a service provider is provided a particular channel, means within that only you have to communicate. Outbound means if a channel is provided a certain band and if you are operating with a higher band, that means your information is definitely going to be loose, because the channel capacity is 400 Hz but you are operating in a 500 Hz, that will become as a outbound signal. Okay. So here you can see in-band signaling refer, if I am using the telecom network, in-band signaling refer to use the same voice frequency band to carry signaling information as that used to carry the voice. So if it is a voice, telecom itself indicates telecommunication means voice communication. Okay. So voice communication, if it is in-band, it will provide a certain band, that is from 300 to 3400 Hz. That means 300 Hz to 3.4 kHz for audio signals. Okay. Similarly, in contrast with outbound signaling, refer to the frequency above the voice band. What I have told, if it is above the voice band, the upper frequency threshold is 4 kHz to carry the signaling information. But below the upper means your maximum is 4 kHz. If you exceed this 3.4 kHz, it will come into the outbound signal, and it must be within the 4 kHz. It must not be more than 4 kHz, because telecommunication will carry only the voice signal. Voice signal strength lies between 300 to 3.4 kHz. So if it is within that one, then you can say it is called in-band signaling. Voice signal can be transferred. If it is outbound, means if it is more than 3.4 kHz, but it must within the 4 kHz. So here it is. In contrast, outbound signaling refer to the using frequency above the voice band and carry signaling information. Okay. This is with respect to the telecom network. Now we will see with respect to datacom network. Datacom network is data communication. Okay. So in-band signaling refers to using the same virtual channel to carry signaling information that is used to carry data. Now used to carry data means binary data. Okay, it can be binary data. Large number of binary data, digital data we are going to transmit, and those data will have different sort of formats, different sort of encoded data will be there. We need to encrypt it, we need to extract the information. Okay, and in contrast with respect to outbound signaling, information and data are carried on different virtual channels. So information and data rate, these are the two features. Outbound signaling information and the data rate are provided in two different channels. Okay, so these are the basic features for telecommunication and data network with respect to inbound and outbound signaling. Okay, next. So as you can see, in-channel signaling versus common channel signaling. In-channel and common channel is the same physical channel can be carried for the information as well as voice data. So there are two things we are going to transmit. One is voice signal and one is data, digital data. It can be text, it can be any webmail, it can be emails or any sort of different sort of data, whatever the required for a particular system. Now with respect to telecom, with respect to data communication, we will discriminate between in-channel signaling and common channel signaling. So in channel signaling, same physical channel carries the signal information as well as the voice and data. Okay. In contrast with respect to common channel signaling, separate channel for solely carrying signaling information for a number of connections. So there are different channels will be allocated for this particular system. Common channel signaling uses the separate channel. Okay, one solely for carrying the signaling information for a number of connections. Separate channel will be allocated to them. Separate channel will be provided to them. Separate bandwidth will be provided to them. And in that only you have to transmit your signals. Now, if it is in datacom, in-channel signaling and common channel signaling in telecommunication network is analogous to in-band signaling, and outbound signaling is a data communication network respectively. So, in data communication, two scenarios are created with respect to telecom, with respect to datacom. If it is in-channel, it will provide with respect to analogous in nature. If it is outbound, it will provide the data communication network. These things we will discuss in the next coming slides with respect to some criteria, some categories are there. Okay. Next. Now, more about this meta signaling. Meta signaling means more than one number of signals. Many number of signals are there. N number of users are there. N number of conduction will be there. N number of traffic traffic identifiers will be there. Who will identify a particular conjunction? Who will identify a particular jamming purpose? Suppose if I will use a jammer, nobody can use a particular network throughout a particular region, in a certain region. So the jamming will be done and it will shut down all the networks if you are using any sort of service provider. So similarly, the traffic means the congestion of different sort of networks. Either it is Airtel, either it is within the services, within the network, as well as with other networks also. So meta signaling means it is another signaling which find mentioned in various signaling standards. It refers to the process of establishing signal channel using the signal procedure, and signal channel is established is used for channel for the data transfer. Now this meta signaling means it is following certain procedure, it will follow certain protocols, it will follow certain rules and regulations for transmission of information from one end to the other with respect to voice signal, with respect to data communication. Okay. So here you can see the meta signaling referring to the process of establishing signal channel. It will establish means certain procedure is required to establish a particular method through which the signals can be delivered in a particular channel, and that particular channel will use, or in that particular channel we are traveling in a safer mode without any sort of conduction. Some protocols need to be identified. If the protocols are identified, if the procedure is done, safely we can travel in a particular medium. Safely we means we are the information. Information can be traveled from one point to the other point without any sort of congestion, without any sort of attenuation, with the same signal strength. Okay? But practically it is not happen. Practically the scenario is different. Noise will hamper. Noise will hamper to your information. The information quality will deteriorate, but at the receiver, we need to tune the receiver. We need to flexible the receiver so that it will identify the received signal, minimize the effect of noise, enhance the signal quality, due to which signals can be recovered at the receiver end. Next. So these are the signaling issues what I have discussed previously. First, acknowledgement it will identify. That means if I need to form a complete communication, if I am delivering something, you people must also respond to me, then only the communication takes place. If I am speaking and nobody is responding to it, no acknowledgement to it, no feedback to it, then it becomes the whole communication is failed. There must be one side through which a response must be, we should receive. If the response is not received, then the communication fails. So that is the first, acknowledgement. Second, time protection. Time protection again it comes into picture means we need to transmit a particular signal within this particular time, within this estimated time. Who will decide? Service provider will decide. The time protection must be done. Within the fraction of second, my information should be delivered to a receiver end. So that is called time protection. So that is also depend upon, comes under our signal. If there is a multi-part fading happens, then time delay will increase. Suppose if I want to transmit a signal from one end to the other end within 4 seconds, let us consider. But due to the multi-path, some deterioration happens, some different sort of paths are there through which information received to the receiver after 10 seconds. So that means there is a delay from 4 to 10 seconds, that is 6-second delay. So time protection will identify. He will say that within 4 seconds if it is not received means information lost. Okay? Parameter negotiation. Different sort of parameters are there. We need to negotiate it. Okay? Then call or connection identification. Means who is calling, who is the caller, and how to identify it, how to get it a particular data from that received signal. Is the received signal is carrying the effective data or not? So that is called as our call and connection identification, which service is provided. Then finite state machine model. It is called FSM. It is a dynamic structure through which all loops will be identified. Different sort of states are identified. All are interlooped with each other. Next is called as a TLB format. Okay? That is called encoding and decoding. This is at the end. If I want to transmit the signal, I need to encode it. If I want to receive the signal, I need to decode it. So this is called message encoding and decoding. Next. So first we will see acknowledgement. As I have told, there are the two systems are there. This first system is called as the originating end, through which information is transferred toward the receiver end. Now the receiver must acknowledge to a particular originating end. If he is providing with the acknowledgement signal, then his whole communication is done. Here it is called as a two-way handshake. Two-way handshake means two-way handshake. He is providing a signal, he is responding to the signal. Okay? But again, if the originating signal is providing one acknowledgement to this, that I have received this signal, that I have your acknowledgement I have considered. So then it will come as a three-way handshake. First, originating signal has transmitted the signal. Receiver end acknowledge it, yes, I have received. Now this originating one, he will tell that, yes, I acknowledge your response. You have responded to my transmitted data, I acknowledge you. So if he is providing one acknowledgement, then this whole system is called as a three-way handshake. This is called two-way handshake, this is called three-way handshake. And it is required to unreliable nature of transmission media. However, 2 or 3 handshake is typically sufficient for a normal case. For a normal communication, these two cases will come into picture. One is two-way handshake, one is three-way handshake. Two-way handshake means I have delivered, you responded me, done. Three-way handshake means I have delivered the information, you responded me, and then again I am responding to your response. That yes, I acknowledgement your response. So that is called three-way handshake. Next. So as I have told, timer protection, time limitation must be there. So timer are used to avoid the inordinate delay in case of signaling message get lost or corrupted. What I have told, due to the multipath fading, your signal will reach to the receiver after some time period. It is not receiving at the estimated time period. Suppose the network is decided that yes, within 4 seconds your call should be delivered to the user end. But due to some sort of multipath fading, that call was delivered after 10 seconds. That means 6 seconds was there. So if there is a delay, that means it was inefficient. Okay? And the signaling message gets lost or it can be corrupted. What I have told, multipath fading means your signal's quality deteriorate. Time delay will be increased and frequency component reduced. Timer is started after the message transmission. Timer will start when you put a call, then the timer will start when your message is transmitted. Okay? If I am transmitting, if I am speaking, my message is going to be transmitted. So timer is started. In case the message is lost or discarded, the timer expires and message is retransmitted. Suppose in between that, if something happens due to which call drop happens, due to which some information did not deliver. So what will do, the network provider, he is so efficient, he will retransmit the signal continuously. If he is retransmitted the signal, that means in case of message lost or discarded, the timer expires and message is again retransmitted continuously. Okay? If the message reaches safely and acknowledged, the timer is stopped. That means if the message is delivered at the receiver end, he will acknowledge, then the timer ends. He will tell that yes, your whole communication is done in a proper manner. So this is the timer protection. We need to judge about the time also, because signaling come into picture with respect to time. If the time bound is not there, we cannot form a effective communication. The time bound must be there. Okay? Parameter negotiation. This entails arriving at a common set of parameters. Nature and scope of parameter depend upon the number of handsets. In a two-way handshake, negotiation is very minimal. In a three-way handshake, provide more scope of negotiation. Negotiation means bargaining. Okay? We are identifying the parameters. How? With the help of handshake. With the help of taking response. If I am communicating to anyone, he should respond. Then only the whole communication to be done. And that particular scenario will depend upon either two-way handshake or three-way handshake. So this parameter negotiation will come into picture with respect to this acknowledgement. It comes under the acknowledgement. Okay. Next, call or connection identification. So call and connection identification. Here I have considered a case how we will identify. Okay. So here you can see it will follow certain steps. First step, an end system A sends a connection establishment required to request to B. Suppose A is a system and B is a system. A wants to communicate B, he wants to set a communication between him and B. So it will end system A sends a connection establishment, means he is asking for a particular establishment. Then A send another request to end system B for the connection establishment, means here he is identifying B. Second, he is asking for the establishment, means handshake he is asking. So and A then receive a reply from B. That means B is responding to A. That means yes, I am free, I will acknowledge you, I will communicate to you, we will form a communication. So A then receive a reply of B. How does A identify to which request has B replied to? That means first A wants to communicate to B. Second, A wants the establishment between him and B. If B responded, then A will decide for which thing he has identified. So that is called as our call or connection identification, means the response. It all comes under your signaling handshake. Suppose if I am responding, if I want to establish a connection between you didn't respond, so that means you are not identifying. If anybody is identifying for a particular communication, both should be communicate with each other with a certain protocols. So first, A will send an establishment request to B, then after establishing a particular setup between A and B, B will respond. If B responds, then only the whole communication will take place. This is called call or connection identification. Then next, it is called FSM. So basically the block diagram speak lots. Here I have jotted down what it happens. First, a call goes through three phases. That establishment of call goes in three phases. First, call establishment, data transfer, call release. First, call establishment means A is asking establishment with B. First, second, data transfer. Once it is set up, the data can be exchanged either in one way or in two ways. Then after the communication, both will be released from that establishment. That is called call release. The FSM accepts the message only if the message is permitted in that state, and the state change happens when the message is received from the peer, timer expires, and user request received from the user. So these are the fundamental steps through which the FSM will work. It is called as a finite state machine. So next. So this is the basic block diagram of FSM. FSM means it is a finite state. It depends upon present state. Okay. So here you can see there is a establishment request is sent, call establishment and initiated, establishment request acknowledged with active mode, then call creating initiated. If it is established, call will be initiated, and then call clear acknowledgement. After the establishment of call, deliver of information, both will be free from that call. It is called call releasing. That is called acknowledgement is received and it is called none. Means no communication. Okay. Next, encoding and decoding. So these are the basic of how we are going to transmit the signal, how we are going to receive the signal. If I am going to transmit, I need to encode the data. If I am going to receive, I need to decode the data. So generally messages are encoded in type, length and value. That is called TLV format. Type, length and value. Type identifies the types. Length of message, total length or the excluding the header. And value, the actual content. Means what is the content in that particular message. So this is called TLV format. So when we are using for this communication purpose, while encoding, we use this TLV format. It is called type, length and value. Information block within the message is also encoded in TLV format. So when we are transmitting the data, it will be in a form of time slots. It will be in a form of blocks in digital. Okay. And this message will be represented in this form: type, length and value. Next. Now this is the last part of the signaling. As I have discussed, there are two different types of signaling methods are there. It is a point-to-point communication, point-to-multi-point communication, or multi-point-to-point or multi-point to multi-point. Depend upon different sort of topologies are there. Star topologies are there, mesh topologies are there, even point-to-point communication as well as point-to-multi-port, multi-port to single point. So this is called point-to-point, point-to-multi-point, multi-point to point. Even in star, even in mesh, different sort of topologies are there. Here you can see, if I am transmitting the data to B, B must receive the data and acknowledge to A, so that whole communication can be done. Similarly, this is called as a root. It will deliver the information to the leaves, and leaves can also communicate to the root. So this is the signaling modes through which the signals can propagate from one point to the other point. So these are the basic concepts behind the transmissions, different type of transmission media and different types of signalings. So signalings speak about how we are setting up the communication system, how the signals are not deteriorated when traveling from one point to the other point. It follows certain protocols. It is having certain negotiation principle. It is having certain acknowledgement principle. And most important thing, within the estimated time, the information must deliver from one point to the other point. Okay. So these are the basic features what I have discussed for transmission media and signal. Next we will see with respect to evolution of wireless communication and different type of telecommunication networks and wireless networks. Okay. For the time we will wind up. Thank you all.